Very much. Do you want to go to the next session? Or any
Are you
question?
ready to begin, Mr. Kesh?
Yep. Unless you want to do something.
Sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Don't forget the switch on this on the other channel, Rick. Boom. Any questions?
It's working. Okay, so I remind our attendees here, once again, they can raise their virtual hands so we can acknowledge you to open your microphone. There's a few questions in the YouTube here. Let me see if I can get them lined up here. You mentioned the orange in your talk today, Mr. Kesh, and there's a question from Peace Plasma. When you set fruit on top of the jar of GANs, how does the taste of the fruit go through the jar and get into the plasma water? And do you absorb all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrition?
You even absorb the soul of the orange, or part of the soul of the orange, or reflection of the soul of the orange too. You have to understand it's not just the cup, it's the structure of the cup. When I'm going to share, and maybe some of you are new knowledge seekers and so often old will understand this. When we make a replication unit, which is the cup and the orange, it's not just the cup. First of all, you have created dimension of life on this planet, which is salinity dependent. So you have filled in the cup with water. So now you have created a condition of life. That's the position of it. You always, the best salinity is 0.9%, which is salinity of the blood and the soul of the man. Then what we have done, if you look at the replication unit, we have created, or we have placed bottles of different gases in this, what you call containers. These gases are magnetic field dependent. So now this water inside is not anymore water, it's a magnetic field water of both strength of what we have put. But we have pre-selected these what to be. So we know it'll be at the strength of the amino acid. So this orange has a magnetosphere. It radiates. It's not just an orange as you're used to it because you look at the physical dimension. Now you're absorbing all its essence. You created a communication of line of interaction. This is the beauty. Now change this cup with the brain and the physicality of the man and the soul of the man. Do you need that cup? Or if you understand the interaction, you create a condition of wanting the orange, you will receive what the orange doesn't need as a field is there to manifest itself, to show itself. So it's already given it out and you have picked it up. That's why you don't need to kill the orange to eat it. That's why you don't need that position and interaction. Many of you have opened many oranges during your lifetime. Many of you have opened many nectarines in your lifetime. Many of you have eaten apples and other fruits. Have you ever paid attention? When you open an orange, between the segments, there is a space free. Even the tightly packed one have it. When you look at an apple, have a look where the seeds are. Ask yourself one question. Would this be the soul, the praise of the soul of the orange, where in the brain of the man we found that hole? This is what we have to become, not accepting just because it's said, understanding the process that we do not need to accept, because then it becomes intellect. It's us who has to understand how to expand the field of this, that it covers everything. And the strength of the orange becomes part of its strength, that it does not need to create physicality to kill, to destroy the orange, to have its essence. Then maybe if you look at it in another dimension, one orange on earth is enough to feed all the wishes of the mans in universe, all the ones from planet Earth, on planet Zeus or any other position, to feel, to taste that orange wherever they wish. Do we have Alex in the background from Nigeria? Do you see him in teaching? Rick?
Just looking here. I don't see him here today.
I see him. He's busy this month. He's very busy. I thought he might be here. Alex did one of these experiences with 3 different things. With orange, with something which makes you drunk, and I think it was a banana. And as he wished, he received and he tasted it. Alex carries a beautiful pure soul, and he's one of the leading knowledge seekers, and he does most strangest thing, which the professors in the universities won't accept because he doesn't have a degree, but he is 3 professors, 10 professors in one. Because he's not reading the books, he understands the process of the interaction of the field. And he can explain to you if he was here, because when he did it, he was shocked how he got drunk at night and how he was feeding himself with a banana, and how he received his orange juice in the morning, and the taste, the emotion, and the feeling of it. He didn't need that cup. He, in a way, became the cup. So when you ask, do you feel it? Even what I call that soul of the orange, it has a magnetic field strength. You just look at it, taste it, or feel it. But what have you received from his soul dimension? This is 20% of the pleasure. This is 80% of the pleasure. And mankind always looks for this. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. Let me see here. We had a hand up. Dean, I thought you had your hand up. I'm not sure if you meant to do that or not, but your microphone is open if you'd like to speak.
I would like to share something with you and with our Iranian friends. As you know, it's the Iranian New Year celebration coming up. And this is, as you've seen, it's short of one thing. It should be there by tonight. This is the Iranian New Year celebration table. And embeds in it the whole history of man. What man has received as a gift from this planet. The plant, the flower, the egg, the sweet, and the apple, which is the creation of life. And in totality, when you put it together, when you make enhancement unit, has to carry the emotion of all this to make man the traveler of the universe. That we carry the memories, the strength of the soul of the apple and the orange, but we do not need to destroy it or come to earth to see it. We can manifest it through our soul in the dimension of the emotion. And this celebration goes back to the time of Mitra and Zoroaster. Even the light, which is the candles in the form of light of the Mitra and the Creator, is on the table. The egg represents the earth and the universe and the universe. And it's in the shape of what I call cosmic dimension and the structure. If you look at it, it's very much the shape of the enhancement units. That's why we build the enhancement units in this shape. The shape of the interaction of the magnetic field. One end slightly stronger than the other, that allows the interaction of the fields of the universe. I wish all the Iranians the best this year will bring. We hope that the peace treaty in Vienna will be signed within the next few hours, and even just before the Iranian New Year, as we said before, in the last couple of days, and for the Iranian to celebrate a change, and for a lot of us to receive a new dimension in life and technology as we share it now openly with the rest of the world nations. A Happy New Year, Eid al-Shua Mubarak. What is missing in the center is a bowl of fish, which is a sign of the liquids of the life within the dimension of the oceans. They'll be there by tonight. Any other question? There is something in this picture you will not see or haven't noticed, is the mirror, which reflects the light of the Creator on this creation. And that's why we put the mirror on top of the table, where it reflects all His creation within it, which is the light of the Creator. And if you look at it in a way, you still see the Easter bunny, or what you celebrate as an Easter in Christianity with the egg. Then you see the Christmas with the plant, with the light, which you put lights on the Christmas tree. And other ways you celebrate in Christianity the totality of the incoming of the year, as is what I call a child of Zoroaster and Mitra in different shape and names and forms. It's beautiful to see this and remember every year how feeble the man is and how still man is physical in every dimension of it. Thank you very much, Rick, and I wish you all of us a beautiful new year. And it's going to be beautiful. We know what the souls are about to bring and how the man will change this year. Any other question?
Question from David in the YouTube. Did you say that you can materialize a fish with a thought?
If you wish to, you can do. There is no limitation if you understand it. Thought is the fields of the emotion of the brain of the man. And there is no reason why you cannot. Have you ever been through the process of visualizing somebody in front of you, or something has visualized in front of you, but it doesn't exist? It just exists because you want it to be visualized. Your dream, isn't it one of them? The interaction of the souls. So we fulfill that dream. You might see in a fish, a goldfish, somebody who likes to see a crocodile will see a crocodile, and somebody who likes to see God knows whatever else in that water, we will see that. We create the emotion of the fish. You decide the taste of the orange, sweet, sour. It will be a red orange, it will be an orange which I used to pick up on the tree of the grandma's garden. We provide the dimension of what I call satisfaction of the emotion of the soul of the man. Then this man will paint it the way he likes. If it's the new year, as we just saw on the table, we always have a goldfish. Maybe somebody would like to have a prawn in there. You'll see a prawn. You decide to the dimension of emotion. This is exactly what I said. When you go to the dimensions in the universe, you decide how you manifest yourself, because it's the emotion and interaction with the field of the time and the place which gives the dimension of the survival, as the soul cannot die. It cannot be destroyed. So in condition of interaction of the environment and the soul of the man, physicality is created to satisfy the emotion of the existence. So in a way, I can create Christ in front of you, because is what will satisfy your emotion to understand, to confirm his existence. The true resurrection, but through the field of the wishes of the man. So, would you like the fish? Or would you like to see the Christ swimming in the pool, or in the pond, or in the container? It's you who decides according to the wishes. Now you understand the knowledge. This is not a magic or whatever. It's you who decides the manifestation, not somebody else. We provide the energy back. It's you who colors that energy back. It's a plain canvas. You draw your own painting through the emotion of the soul of man. Now you understand the knowledge. Now you understand the technology behind the knowledge. That should be not much problem for knowledge seekers. Any other question?
We have Nikolai with a hand up here, so let me allow him to talk. Go ahead, Nikolai.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me, Rick?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
Very well. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Good morning. Thank you for taking the question.
Yes, where are you from, Nikolai? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Nikolai from Canada. It's been a few years since I was in these teachings, but it's good to be back. I made my appearance last night with Rick and a few of the souls over there, and it feels very nice to be back.
You are back.
Thank you. I brought something up last night in Rick's teachings about a certain realization I had about the CO2 box, and it struck me as kind of funny, and it related to the 5+1 that I had heard you speaking about, but in a different way. And I wanted to perhaps ask or share what I came up with, and decipher perhaps if I'm on the right track in understanding this. And forgive me if I'm 2 years behind, but maybe this is old news. When I drew the box, in my mind's eye, I had a plate of zinc on one side and an nano-coated plate on the other. And I considered this the first skin. Then the difference between those two plates, I considered to be the value of 5. My second skin was between the amino acids on the top layer and the CO2 at the bottom layer, the difference being 1. And so for my bath time realization, I had 5+1 as the soul of the middle of the two fields. And it struck me for the first time that I had perhaps understood more in the CO2 box than I ever had before. And I wanted to bring that to the attention of whoever would be listening and whoever would like to know if this is even the correct understanding or if I've made a mistake in this. And that's all I wanted to bring up.
We understand it in different ways, and we explain it in different ways. And it's beautiful the way you interpret it. I always said, we take from this technology according to our understanding and intelligence of what we are intellected to. And as I said to one of knowledge seekers, I think yesterday before, we see a flow of knowledge seekers, but they always come back because they've been beaten with the knowledge. And they might leave for a short while, but they come back. They might do 1 or 2 years, they come back. Or they just come back to listen to the teachings, to add to the knowledge, because they received it with love and care. You interpreted it the way you see it, and maybe that has been a way to elevate the soul of the 5+1 leaders. That's why your soul comes to contribute to it. And there is nothing wrong in how you interpret it, or nobody can say, no, it's this or that. It's to be respected in what you share and what you understand from it. In a way, if you add it, 5+1 is 6, and 6 is carbon. Is this what we extract CO2 from the environment? Is this the line of communication and dimension of physicality of the soul that you understand? In either way you look at it, that CO2 box has a lot of knowledge, a lot of ways of application. That CO2 box, what you call it 5+1, it is 5+2 as well, which is the connection to the universal line of communication. There is huge amount of carbon-14 created in that box. And it's interesting to understand it. If you make what we just saw in the teachings about they were talking about the bunny gifts for the agriculture. If you just get the what we call the growth ganses, you might do 20% better, maybe 30% better. But as I said to our production line, add the amino acids of the material you put in agriculture. Then you get 100, 200%. Because through amino acid, you connect to the soul, dynamic soul of the system, not just the energy system. In trials, we always have seen this. When you make systems understand if you're dealing with a matter state, or you're dealing with a plasma state, or you're dealing with a solar state, and you have to follow the procedure A to Z. I watch what comes into communication of the what I call the secret society of Jalal with making magraphs, and it makes me laugh sometimes when I just see them flashing up. So they haven't understood yet. They haven't understood the work of magraphs yet. They're still peddling in the matter state. Some of them come up with gorgeous ideas in that group, but still, you have to understand, is the essence of understanding which counts, and not the physicality of what you produce. In what you understood, 5+1, which brings you back most probably that you would like to see the success of it, you added your soul to that way to elevate the soul of the world leaders. We've been in the tangle of this 5+1. I've been in it since 15th of November 2012 with Obama. We started it, we set it up, and we continuously stayed out of it, but give it a pick here, a pick there to keep it on tight. When I met with the Iranian officials last Friday in the Iranian embassy in Vienna, there was a puzzle that why we didn't know this. And immediately, the Iranian ambassador, Mr. Bagheri, left Vienna within 2 hours. Because in the information we gave, and I've supplied that information now to the American government directly to the White House, and we saw immediate change again in the White House behavior, and they gave the undertaking to Russians immediately. We saw a strange phenomena. We saw the nest of the scientists of Iran being killed, centered in Erbil, was flattened out. And all the Israeli agents who were involved in killing Iranian scientists were taken out. This is a public information. I don't give you anything hidden. But we saw the reaction of Iran into knowledge shared and how Iran was victimized by the Israelis. In killing more scientists, in bringing the position, it was done in the middle of the night, not to kill, but to destroy the position. And as far as we know, nobody was killed in that attack. It was just for Iran to know, now we have the information, now we know what you've done to it. And we showed the American government immediately, now we know what you've done with whatever you've done through Trump. We saw immediate guarantees which was needed for 5+1. And now we're back on track. We hope the Iranian leadership and the ministers will be in Vienna in the coming days, maybe just before Iranian New Year or just after Iranian New Year, to sign this agreement. Because we went in with the soul of bringing peace. We saw immediate interaction with the Russians and Iranian foreign ministers in past 48 hours. We do a lot of work in the background, explaining the truth, putting the elevation of the soul, and we always get it. As Wang Lin is here with us in a meeting in China, one of the Chinese security people said to us that he's been in meetings with the world leaders and they discuss the Keshe Foundation in the meetings, in what we do at the world level, which comes because we partially share this with all the nations. Wang Lin, you're in the background. Would you like to come in?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, but I'm not sure what you mentioned.
Yeah, but what I was saying, we share all the technologies with the Chinese as much as we do with the Americans.
Yes, exactly.
And we share with the same with the Iranians and the rest.
Yeah.
Do we hold anything back from them?
No.
Doesn't this puzzle them, that how we work?
Yeah. I think we're gonna get some good news from government soon, maybe. for the new project. They accept our application forms for the the new technology developing in China. It's been put in as a part of the projects in for 14 and 15 plan. 有事儿你先吃吧。
You explained the 14 and the 15 plan for those who don't understand.
Yes, China each 5 year will have a 5 years plan. So this is the 14th and 15th that like next 5 or 10 years developing, and China has put huge funds for new technology developing in the future. So hopefully our project being approved and can get support from government.
Thank you very much.
And our Chinese knowledge seekers are asking when you will come to China. We all miss you and welcome to China back.
I hope very soon when they take the 21 days lockdown away. We hear there is another burst of corona in some parts of China that they have enforced lockdown again. And when do you know much about it?
It's very seriously, actually. Many cities are fully closed down because of the fast spreading of the corona.
This is a new development in past week or so.
Yeah, especially in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and some city in north of China. It's very serious.
This is the new version of the latest, what do you call it? Evolution, or what do you call is changed to newer strength.
Yeah. And it's already involving 28 provinces. Only fewer provinces didn't have report. But what I see, there's not much cases report in our factory area. So I'm wondering, is that because of we have this strong plasma fields, so protect that area?
You have a beautiful factory in China. And you set up enough, you produce enough gases there.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Pardon?
We have tons of gases there.
Some people don't know the size of your operation, what you produce there. It's beautiful, and I hope we'll expand much more in the next few weeks and what it goes. Thank you very much, Wang Lin, and it's nice to hear you after a long time. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
We did have go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Keshe, I had one other experience which in that same evening was interesting for me. A few days prior, I had made a CO2 box and I had poured in a small bottle of Lugol's iodine. This is an iodine that you can put on your skin. And my intention was to create the GANs of this for the ability to put into the fields of a MagRav unit for spreading the fields of the iodine to those who have a deficiency. And in that same night, when I had the realization about how the CO2 box was having this function, in the next morning, I went to look into the box. And the day before, the waters of the box had been very orange and brown colored from the iodine. And in the morning when I looked, it was completely clear. And there's amino acids on the top, and I have white GANs in the bottom in some places. Not a whole lot, but it is beginning to produce. But every trace of that iodine, a whole bottle, maybe 70 milliliters, was gone. And it struck me that this was the zero time communication effect in action. But it coincided with my understanding of the 5+1 in the same time. And I thought that was very interesting.
Ask you a question. What was your wish? Did you have any wish about 5+1 before, in past week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever?
I've only listened for about the last 2 or 3 knowledge seeker workshops, and I had heard in passing, often because the time difference is quite late on Western Canada. So I fall asleep sometimes, and I didn't always know what you meant by 5+1. And so in my sleeping time, the subconscious is getting the message, but I'm maybe not consciously getting the message. And so at the time, I didn't understand 5+1. And again, I asked Rick last night, and he explained a bit more about it. And so I didn't have a specific wish about that group. I didn't really understand what the 5 meant until maybe the last 48 hours, where I got more clear.
It sounds like a carbon 5+1. That's beautiful. It's very interesting that we all understand different things on different levels, but at the end it comes to one point. In so many ways, 5+1 always has been 5+2 because Iran wasn't counted as one. Iran was counted 5+1 against Iran, and now it's become 5+2, and we'll see beautiful developments coming up. And it's by the wish I hear Brazilians have every night a program for elevation of the soul of the leaders in 5+1. But comes to one point. What happened once we receive that elevation? Are we going to stop? Or we elevate the soul of the world leaders to the next step, to the next understanding, to the world peace, to sharing of the knowledge and technology? And would it be the end of the suffering for a few millions, maybe 80 million Iranians suffered long enough with it? Or would it be another dimension to opening? And as I said, the delivery of the Flight Enhancement Unit to NASA, the Marshall Space Center, is an olive branch of peace between the scientists. And as I said before, and I said to the Americans in the past 48 hours, 72 hours, the reason we did not ship anything to Arizona or NASA or to anywhere else was not to give access to a technology that can kill and bring more sanctions on the Iranians by them using it. And the rest of us, the tool of war has to come to an end. And now we'll see the beauty of it, as Rick has on its what I call system. And we're seeing the 2 flight systems in what you call, Americans are promoting now to send man back to the moon. And it's amazing. Rick, I have to switch over for 1 second from one to another system because it's running out of one.
I'll play the Artemis rocket video there that you were talking about from NASA.
Yes. This is
about
now,
a minute.
Yeah, play it. It's good.
Okay, so this is the Artemis rollout trailer, they call it, from NASA. And we'll see what this is all about.
The voice is not very clear. The sound.
Sorry, there's audio on this that should come through. I'll share it a little differently. Hopefully it'll work without optimizing the video clip. Okay, let me try again. Sorry about that. Let's start fresh here.
Through Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo, we are returning to the moon. Artemis 1 will be the first flight test of each of these components. United together, this is the first of Artemis's arrows, capable of ushering in the next chapter of human lunar exploration. With each component playing its part in a grander effort, we, the people of the Artemis generation, all around this beautiful world, will bear witness to what we are capable of. Together, we are going back to the moon.
Very interesting.
Apollo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there's an echo right now.
Yeah, I cannot get rid of my system. Okay, sorted. Yep, I'm back on. I had to switch over because the other unit was dying off. As you can see, NASA, if you read the article about it, is by the wish of President Trump, wants the Americans back on the moon, and they have come with a double rocket, which means a twin rocket will get there faster. I wrote to our friends in NASA. I said, "Is that a new joke? Are you moving, or are you going the new way?" And it's very interesting. You put the two technologies next to each other. This is supposed to be the latest, technology from NASA. All they could do was to extend a little bit another fuel tank. That's all it is. And very interesting is, are we still sticking to the matter state, or would NASA move into understanding of the work of the universe and work into the magnetic field of the universe? I think it'll be a beautiful scene when the enhancement unit in the next few days is delivered at Marshall Space Center. And we see how the American space people will interact with this unit. They have all the details of it. They're waiting for it. And as I said to them, you have two choices. We send you the control system, or you build it yourself, or we tell you something. And I said, your control system has to fit in within 12 centimeter maximum within the gap between the walls. And it's a puzzle. But as I said to them, we have to explore both technologies and not become arrogant to one is better than the other. Because we learn something new. And somewhere, I'm sure, in deep space, one will be used for the other and the other will be used for the other. When the rocket is in problem, they will use the magnetic field shielding of the system, not to get touched by meteorites or whatever else. Or when it goes through when you go to space dust is always there. It will be battered by it. And somewhere in the future, in our technologies, when we want to land something down, we might use the propulsion rocket technology that has been developed. It's not to be arrogant, but to understand there are different ways of doing it, and we have to be open to both of them, and many other more. Once we say we are the only answer, it's the end of the cycle. The arrogance kills the whole knowledge. We have to be open. That's why we open the patterns. We see this. We see the evolution in science, matter state and the plasma state. And plasma changes to matter and matter changes to plasma. So we have to be open to accept both and see what is the best benefit for the development of the knowledge, expansion and extension of the knowledge. It's beautiful. Now, for the first time, you see the latest both in the matter state and in the plasma state. As I said to our guys in Marshall Space Center, by the time you get this to the launch pad, we've been to the moon and back 3 times with the new system. But still, we have to find out how it works. It's amazing in how the 2 technologies will work hand in hand, parallel, for different aspects, different understanding, and development of the man's knowledge into world of his own creation. Now we have 2 to put and compare and benefit by both. Any other question?
Okay, we have a hand up from Salamia here. Go ahead, Salamia.
Thank you, Rick. Hello, Mr. Keshe. First of all, happy Nowruz. And I have a question related to the piece talking from tomorrow from Vienna, if you have some news, and a wish to put together with all the people for Nowruz regarding peace on Europe and in the world, to wish all the people from the planet at once to get equilibrium on this planet and to feel the fields of love, the most powerful fields on the world in our soul as a common denominator for unity and for peace in our soul. Let's work together, collaborate to know better the knowledge of the universe, to explore the universe, the micro and the micro universe, to know better our human being in order to understand how powerful we are and how powerful the Creator made us from his own nature and reflection as in a mirror. Yes.
Thank you very much.
I hope that Nowruz will bring eternal peace on this earth, hopefully with the help of you, Mr. Keshe, and of Keshe Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nowruz means new day, and we hope every day will be a new day that we start fresh and we learn. Any other question, Rick? Are you there?
Oh, yes. Hello, Mr. Keshe. We had a question from Jan in the YouTube on the 5+1. He says, Mr. Salehi, who is half Jewish, is not any longer the head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran. So why aren't the 5+1 and Iran reaching a final agreement? And he says the AEOI is now headed by Mohammed Eslami.
The heads of the whole situation in Iran and the 5+1 is not just about Iran. The whole structure in the background of 5+1 is, in principle, from the beginning was taken as to be a weapon technology, but in reality is colonization and control of the future energy resources. The club is very small, and investors in the club are heavily involved in. Part of what we looked at 5+1 from the beginning, before 5+1, when the sanctions came in heavily on Iran regarding the nuclear, was a young boy trying to break into an old club and was not accepting another person to share the piece of cake. Now we don't have that position. Iran has moved on, and in the past 15, 20 years has become a master. The boy has become a man. And part of these negotiations, as has become apparent in past 2 or 3 weeks especially, shows what we are prepared to share and who we are prepared to share, and who we put on the watch of another as a little boy to become a man. In a way, everybody benefits by the 5+1 hugely on the nuclear technology. The Germans forced the nuclear plant in SCK in Belgium to enter the nuclear arena outside Germany, where inside Germany they could not do, and now they have a medical reactor, invested about 10 billion into it, and they brought themselves into the nuclear industry, which this was not supposed to be. The Japanese would not be allowed by the Americans because they have a tighter control and it's an isolated island. The Chinese got a very big piece of cake of this process, access to Africa and African resources of nuclear material. The Russians got better deal, the same through it. The Americans got a chunk of it that they could manufacture the what we call nuclear power plants and sell it to the other countries. Iran became a nuclear proliferation nation, selling it now as a little boy, and gradually into the hardware, because Iran's hardware is much more effective and much faster. No nation has managed to reach 30,000 RPM in centrifuge. Iran has, which makes it very, very easy for higher, what we call isotopes, to be preferred. And Americans are after this technology is done by the Iranians. So this was a battle of who and where, and I've actually cut the cake in pieces. We know where everybody sits. And by fluke, the British got a piece of cake as well, but they're as part of the, what we call the Council in the United Nations, and they got themselves in it. French are heavily involved. They got part of which part of the world they supply the nuclear power stations as a sale. Every nuclear power station is around about 30 billion plus. So it's a massive injection of funds into a nation and labor force and income, because it's not just building a nuclear reactor for Sri Lanka or for Singapore. Is the service industry of it brings a continuous income. For 30 years, you have to deliver fuel, you have to repair the systems, you have to purify the fuel and everything else. So it's a very big industry. The 5+1, well, 5+2, Iran being included, was allowing Germans to come into openly nuclear technology, which were banned by the Second World War. The Chinese got a beautiful deal out of it. We know the Chinese process, very clear what they do and what they've done in Africa. Russia has come to sell its nuclear power stations to Iran and the others. And overall, when it comes to, and then hopefully by this weekend, we'll see the beginning of the end of a lot of what we call nuclear industry growth, but in the back of what I call a lot of discussion and fighting how to be done. In the past, we had a problem. When I was in university time, there was a problem, which nuclear power, which country is going to dominate? Even in England, we moved from the carbon graphite cooling systems, fast systems, into PWRs was the American system because the British system didn't work properly. And then we saw the French trying to muscle into the British market and the other places. And it was a big battle in the background for governments in the nuclear industry. Who is going to take? And then somebody wanted to take all of it. Now with 5+1 with Iran, everybody is settled down. The cake has been cut. We'll see a little bit of the changes in how much shares will be given to, especially Iran, both on the fuel side and the technology side. Iran will become a proliferation center for what we call the negotiations. And the negotiation will be Iran will prefer, but cannot use the fuel for weapon technology, which is correct. I agree with that with the IEA and the Americans and the rest. But this should apply to the Germans now. And the same to the other countries. We all produce nuclear material, but not to the weapon grade. Or we go directly into what we call the 100% pure plasma nuclear, which is a new proliferation system, which allows the totality of the knowledge to be added to. The proliferation, plasma proliferation, which is the backbone of the pure fuel for space technology, is why Keshe Foundation is allowed to be within and the framework of the what we call the peace talks, because the plasma proliferation is needed at 100% purity to be able to travel in the depth of the space. We cannot have systems which are not pure and can create problems in deeper space. You suddenly get a drop of calcium, and then your reactor and your system ends up to be another part of the universe as you were expecting to be. So purification in the plasma space has been part of the Keshe Foundation negotiation as a 5+2 with Iran. You can see, as you've seen this before, this is what within this report, which has been shared now with the Iranian government, IAEA, and Americans in past week, says new nuclear plasma proliferation system, which allows Iran to go to 100% purification in the plasma level, which is needed for space technology. And within the dossier of this report, which now is in the hands of the Washington, Tehran, and what we call IEA since 15th of December, a new game is to be played. This is why once we meet, we make such a big difference in our talks and negotiations with governments. The nuclear industry of today is obsolete, and we have spent billions on it. But with a new proliferation system, we bring a new dimension. We all purify to 100%, but for development of the new science, new space technology, and new arena. What you see in front of you on the screen is, as we've shown it before, within this report, the past, the present, and the future of nuclear industry in a very simple way has been explained. How it's been abused and how it's been used. And who has fooled who by abusing it and the rest of it. And every time we opened this report to the Iranian officials in the embassy, within 2 hours, Iranian leadership called the Iranian team back, because knowledge and information is very fundamental within this report. And when the Americans received it, they immediately reacted to accepting that the Russians can play the game and negotiation can start. What we tell you is all recorded. The time of transmission, the government meetings, everything is recorded. The messages to the White House through the American embassy, ambassadors' offices, all recorded, and in the future will be released once the negotiations over. And you see how come every time this happened, we get this reaction. And it wasn't there. 15th of December, before we ran into a problem. Released that to IAEA. IAEA went to Iran to say Iran is not making nuclear because the hand of Israel was opened up and how Trump played it. Actually, he trumped the Americans into 5+1 negotiation of today to go with Iran. In his stupidity, he brought a very positive move, which we see today. Now the cake is shared. Now we know Iran sells fuel. Now we know the Russians do their system. Now we know what the French are doing, and is in public, which up to now was hidden in the public domain. Now all nations will purify. The unit we send to NASA cannot fly if they don't purify to 100% plasma nuclear. Impossibilities. They land in the ocean and start flying if they get 99% correct. This is where the new knowledge, the new technology brings a change. And when we tell you, we go to the embassies, we get in touch with the world leaders, with the government officials, like organizations like IAEA, and we make that difference because what sits in these documents we deliver is game changer, because it's all facts. And this report, I'm sure one day will be released by KF or by Iranians or by the officials in the US, maybe by IAEA. But once we open this document at 10 o'clock last Friday in the Iranian embassy, within hours, the Iranian team, unknowingly to no one, left Vienna. And everybody wrote, negotiation came to a stop. You can see the reason of it is sitting in front of you. And we saw the same night the nest of what was destroying Iranians, and nuclear physicists and scientists in Avail was taken out. And this gives us a chance to peace, as I said to our negotiating team and to Keshwan Nation management. I think the best thing to do once we send the first unit to Tehran, to NASA and others, the very first unit has to be flown to Tel Aviv. In a way, we don't give you the tool of war, we give you a tool of peace. Let them to be ashamed of what they did, how they lied, and how that lying put so many lives in danger, so many people in what we call pain, and for what reason. I think Netanyahu has to be put in a solitary prison for the rest of his life. For the lie and the cheat he did to force the American Jewish lobby. With this, when it comes public, Jewish lobby in the United States will lose a lot of its power because they were known as cheaters, as liars, as enforcers of death. Because Jewish lobby in New York and in Washington pressurized the governments with their lies. Now the hand is open. We don't kill a bird, we feather it one by one, that it cannot fly and stays alive. We cannot do any more damage. The bird of death under the government of Israel, not under the nation of Israel. And this is important for all of us to know. I was in Istanbul and I met with the Iranian officials on Thursday, even during the teaching of last week. I fly to countries for a purpose in the background. We knew the position of the British when I was in London 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. We knew the position of the Russians in another dimension. We knew the position of the Iranian leadership in a very clear position in Istanbul. And I told you in the teaching of Thursday I'll be meeting with Iranian officials very shortly, Iranian hours. And we did, and just check the news is there. We arrived at 10 o'clock by the request of the Iranian officials. We were invited to the embassy, and by delivering the know-how, because we saw the end of problems with not getting through. There was a big problem. Americans would not let the Russians to stay where they are, and we had to solve it. So we did. And 2 hours later, Iranian team left Vienna. And we saw step by step everything. American got the document. They knew how they've been cheated and fooled by the Israelis, and how Russia stood in supporting Iran was correct. The letter was given. They're back in. I always stood outside, and the Iranians would not accept Keshe Foundation to be in front outside because of what it is. But within Iran, we are doing beautiful jobs. The factories are getting set up. We thank the Office of His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran and the Iranian president to allow the technology to grow very rapidly in Iran. Our factory is more or less going into production. They received the first export order in the last 48 hours, which is a massive order for them, and it allows them to start exporting Iran plasma technology outside the borders of Iran, with a full knowledge of the Americans and the Russians and the rest. We start playing the game, and Iran team can tell you they have issued the first massive invoice for export out of Tehran. At the back of it will come the space technology. We play the game of peace. The game of peace has to be that we stay fair and correct with everyone at the same time. What is in front of you has been a game changer, with IAEA accepting and flying back to Tehran to say they don't accept the lies of Israel anymore. The Iranians didn't know why IAEA changed position. And when they received this report, they jumped immediately, because Mr. Bagheri was sitting and waiting for the report. It was imminent. Iran will show a reaction. As I said to my communication with the White House, we were not expecting such a reaction for Iran to leave suddenly the negotiation. They went, they cleaned out the Israelis, and they went and they sorted out the negotiation with the Russians, and on the back of Keshe Foundation, put pressure, knowledge pressure, on the White House and the embassy in Vienna, with delivering direct materials and explanation. And it took less than a few hours for Washington to change position, because they knew now is a public knowledge, and we're given on the writing to the Americans that will never release this report unless they decide. And I've asked the same thing from the Iranian government. We play a direct game, and the time and the hours we tell you is there in this time. You all knew last Thursday teaching that we are about, and I said to you, listen to it. I'll be meeting with the Iranian officials on Friday, because it was time to deliver. We were convinced that the Iranians are not aware. Our intermediary in Tehran betrayed us. In a way, they thought maybe not to give it will be better, but we broke a lot of pain. But now we delivered directly into the hand of the Iranian leadership, and there was no way, because Mr. Bagheri is the son-in-law of His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran. It was instantly in Tehran, and they knew what they've been treated for, and they gave the answer. And we've seen it. Peace talk will complete in the next few hours, a few days. It's just a little bit who takes more of what piece of the cake, and we're done. I thank the whole of the Iranian team, especially Yusuf and the rest, who facilitate these works for us, and how we see the next steps of growth. In China, the same, as we heard from Anlin, and the same in Arizona with John. Arizona will become the center of knowledge for North America, and we are prepared to invest in it. In a way, is thank you very much to the whole of knowledge seekers around the world. We start showing our work, and once we've seen the two different systems, NASA start working with us, the Russian Space Agency, the Chinese, we'll see the rapid embracing of the new understanding of the knowledge and technology. and this is all thanks to you as knowledge seekers, in developing the sharing and keeping the ethos of the Peace Education Foundation. Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, I was wondering how the plasma technology could tie into the current conflict in the Ukraine. We see the president of Ukraine just gave a speech both to the Canadian Parliament and the US Congress, and he got standing ovations in both accounts, and promises of more weapons to be sent to that country for their so-called defense and so on. So the conflict could escalate more in that case. How can the plasma technology tie in to that area specifically? And is there any connection with the 5+1 as well with that?
No, this Ukraine situation is it's a isolated case, as we explained before, and not much we can do, because in the back of it, there's a lot of things settling the scores at the moment. We've seen there is no movement for attacks or war. It's a lot of rhetoric, and the plasma technology has to come through the essence we always worked. It's the job of the Universal Council, especially member for Russia and others, to elevate the soul of the leaders. There is a big problem. There is a very big problem. In the West, we get bombarded with the Western news the way they want us to see it. And in the other side, on the diplomatic side, there is more to it than what you see. I sometimes try to explain this to understand. First of all, the Ukrainian situation is between the Vatican and the Church of Russia. It started with that. And by West bringing new sanctions on Russia, it became a bit personal. When they froze and, in a way, locked down the private yacht of Putin, that was the last shot to Putin. So they went for him, and he took no mercy. But in the process, we have come to the point that now we know for a fact the Americans were doing exactly what they were doing in Japan. Americans in the Ukrainian nuclear reactors are developing nuclear weapons in the hand of the Ukrainians for the Americans to be a position on their doorstep. Now, from the nuclear side of technology, we know Americans have been very busy, naughty children, doing what they were doing in Fukushima. It led to the explosion of the Fukushima reactor because it was carrying plutonium than uranium. That was one of the main reasons Fukushima blew up. It couldn't hold because it had too much enriched material in it, which wasn't supposed to be there. And the Americans fooled the IAEA, or IAEA said, you do what you like, we don't know. The same position now we find in Ukraine. There is a nuclear weapon technology development in Ukraine, which is controlled by the Americans, using the old Russian reactors with the Russians built, and nobody could believe such a thing could take shape. So now we understand another stuff which is taking shape. Now we understand there is accusation of chemical centers, biochemical centers, again to be used because the Ukrainian leaders have been paid to do it in the doorsteps of the Russia. That if anything goes wrong, it's the Russians hit, not us. A lot of biological weapon technology is tested in North Korea, and now we know Ukraine has become another part of it, as the accusation lies war by the Russians against Americans. Because the Ukrainian leader is literally servant to White House. He'll come to your Senate and lick the God knows whatever to save his life. Now his hand is exposed. He has committed international crime by allowing the Americans to develop nuclear weapon at his doorstep. And I told you before, we knew some of this about 4 or 5 years ago. And Russians would not let this guy go by the look of it, because he has betrayed the motherland. We look at it from the Russian point of view, which you don't see in the West. Developing, allowing even testing or starting the test of nuclear weapon has brought 20-year sanction on Iran. How come Ukraine is allowed to do it hiddenly behind? How come Japan was allowed to do it behind the closed doors? Only Americans knew what they're doing. This is a part which brought again pressure on the Americans, and they know there's a lot of things behind it. We tested is on their ground. If it goes wrong, is theirs with us. Israelis do a lot of human trials, paying the North Korean leader for biochemical tests, chemical warfare. Life has no value. We see now, if the accusations are correct by the Russians, they've been doing the same in ex-Eastern Bloc. How much Romania is involved in these things? How much do we have these centers of testing in Bulgaria and other places where the leaders are hungry for finances to help themselves and their nation, and accept any cruelty? Don't look what is pushed in the West. Look what is looked from the East too, and then somewhere in between, you see the truth. We still need to elevate the soul of the world leaders. They are the children of the Universal Council. Not for just this occasion, for the rest of the existence of both. You need to. These children of man are very weak, and they need the strength of the Universal Council soul to strengthen their soul. It's not just the Iranians 5+1. It's not just the Ukrainian. Come a lot of other conditions. Inherently, the man relies on the soul of physicality and is weak. And inherently, soul of the man, the soul of the Universal Council, humanity is much bigger than this planet. To change that, bring that change. Don't look if a guy comes and they clap for him and give him a standing ovation. He has already received a bank account, checks in his bank for the nuclear weapon technology years ago. Now he's exposed. He's running for him not to be, or at least give me a home when I escape, when I sold my nation to weapon technology. There's a lot of things which you don't hear in the West, but Keshe Foundation has what I call a lot of connections in a lot of places, and we see a lot of the facts from that. And the accusation of weapon technology is in public. You got to realize Fukushima and Chernobyl are beautiful test grounds for what will happen to human beings and animals and plants. And usually the nations and the militaries don't go to see the benefit side, what can be done. They look what it can be worse and how they can use it to their benefit. And this is part of it. And now you see the guy coming and crying and going to Senate and going to Canadian Parliament. But that guy has a nightmare that has been discovered by the Russians. He sold the nation next door to them, part of the motherland, to weapon technology development against the motherland. Ukraine was not going to use it on Americans or Germans. So you go naughty, you pay for your naughtiness. This is a cry of a wolf, the way it's looked at in the East. We'll see more, we'll understand more, and we'll see this skirmishes. Now it's become settlement of the national security, the Church of Russia, and a lot of personal pride. A lot of personal pride. Any other question?
Okay, thank you for that background, Mr. Kesh. You see, we have Marinez with a hand up, but first we have a question in the Q&A from Brazil, from Marco. Hello, Mr. Kesh, Rick, and Seekers. Here in Brazil, we have some popular sayings that for many years the older people speak to the younger ones, such as, the head is not only to create hair. I guess that's what the older people say to the younger people. The head is not only to create hair. So the question is, what is the true function of hair? And why do we have a swirl of hair in the center of our head? Thanks and hugs from Brazil.
Yeah, we have a beautiful saying in Farsi. We say, when you look at that curl on the top of the head, you'll see how many of them do you have. And as a joke, we say, if you have one, it means you marry once. If you have 2 or 3 of them, you marry 2 or 3 times. So your soul already knows what you're up to. You need additional souls which will be added to. So it depends on which culture we look at the head. But there is a beautiful picture I received from Azar, I think, or one of the Iranian friends, that it shows a bunch of Iranian men sitting, having a cup of tea with all the bald head. And it says, damn the shampoo in Iran, because it makes all the men bald. And you look to China, you hardly see bald Chinese. They all have full head of hair. It partially receives fields of the universe. It's a nanomaterial. It partially allows what we call the interaction of the fields, which is not absorbed by the body of the man, and those which not needed by the body man. The hair on the body creates a lot of, doesn't matter on your chest, on your back, on your leg, it creates a different reception of the fields. And there's a lot of research is done on this. If you go on the internet, the fact of emotion of whatever, the color of the hair, the length of the hair, and these kind of things. A lot of studies been done theoretically or as a joke or whatever, but essentially is another nanomaterial. Is essentially a way we dispose of some of the energies or gain some of our energies. And there is a very clear line between the races which have lost their hair and those who stay with the hair. There is a research somewhere that explains a lot of these things, and the studies been done. We receive fields according to what does happen with the curly hair and the one with the straight hair. The field interactions are different, creates different. Why the red hair have a specific behavior and the blondes have a different specific behavior. It's the way, it's not just something which grows out of us. It's something which what level of interaction we'll have with it. And we can touch it, we can change it. You can use different ganses and interact with the hair and change the color. And with the change of the color, you receive different feels, different emotions. Go back into Keshe Foundation in 2008, 9, something in that time. There was a knowledge seeker in Holland who had problems, and we developed technology for one thing, but it affected the hair. And the wife wrote every day, oh, my husband now has a full head of hair, and they all turned black. And he feels different, and she was so happy that he has his man back and all. We receive different fields according to the strength of our what we call amino acid, which is embedded in the strands of the hair. It has an effect. It has a purpose. And it's one of the ways we receive what we call energies, or we give up energies. It's something which once scientifically understood as a plasma, then we can trace it, we can see it. There is studies by the Russians in the magnetic field of open hair and spread hair years ago. And it gives you what auras they create, the same hair in a spreading different way. It has an effect on the emotion of the man. It has an effect on the structure of the thinking of the man. Any other question? Would you like to change your screen back?
Okay. We have Marinez here. Marinez, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thanks, Rick. Hello, Mr. Cash. Hello, everybody. I'm always emotive when I talk to you. In advance, Happy New Year, New Nowruz, which is the equinox of spring, when the whole thing is coming out of the earth and a new life is coming out. And so everybody changes the old things and cleans up completely the house and ready to receive and going and making peace with everybody around, and kisses and sweets. And I wish the same thing, honestly, from my heart, for the whole people, because under the cover, we all love each other. Under the education, the differences, we all miss each other's when we don't see them, and we are happy to see them. So we are all of the same grain, humanity. By the way, tonight is the night of anniversary of Mahdi in Iran. And that's gonna be a real lighting light tomorrow in Iran. And people are happy. And tonight, a lot of people don't sleep, and all the night, humbly, they ask for peace and coming of Mehdi. A lot of educated university young people, which are a lot of young people in Iran, very kind and emotional. I think my question was, when you say if we try to be good and then become like sun, honestly, it doesn't attract me, because I don't, I protect myself from the hot sun. And so what? Because in Earth, we have at least some little minorities which are so emotional. For example, these young people who do this praying tonight, that is just bringing tears to my eyes. Their generosity, like they have a system these days from last year that everybody does something good freely for somebody or people, and they put it on their account for Mehdi. For example, even though they don't have money, they go to their oldest school and they teach freely, or they pay the taxi driver the rest of the change to give a ride freely to the.
I don't understand what you're trying to explain us.
So I'm saying that in the Earth, we have emotional people or a relation that can give us the ties that this earth is beautiful. But if I become a sun, is there a guarantee that over there I can find people to relate my emotions to and feel the
What do you
same?
mean? When does your soul become the center of the sun?
Yeah, but my soul doesn't feel the same love and emotions in here, which is,
The fact is, are you connected to your soul?
yes,
You think so?
yes.
So if you live in that level, you understand as you consider yourself as a giver of the sun. You don't need to feel it. Once you're in it, you don't see it. And if that's the way you think that you do, then it's your responsibility to understand the work of your soul the same way. You don't need to speak to do. And if you think you leave that level, you don't feel a sun, but you feel you understand your soul, and the way you always speak is that you're there to give and everything and whatever the other people. So you have to understand how much you think what is strong and what is strength of the sun you have created. This is what I say for the Universal Council members, that they'll be recognized by the light of the strength of the light that they're giving, the devotion to serve and change humanity. You don't need to see it. You don't need to, you feel it by the soul.
Yeah,
So if you feel, you don't feel the sun because it's you how you interpret the sun. And you don't need to write your good thing. Yeah, there is no need to write down or do a charity work to be an account. When you count the wealth, you're not wealthy. And I always said that. When you count, I did such a good thing, I got taught, you haven't done, because you counted, I do to get. Everybody, when I was in business, asked me, how much do you worth? I said, I don't know, because when I count, I'm not worth it. I never sat down and count money to see what I worth. I knew what my target was, to be able to do more, but never count how much I'm worth and what is the wealth. Because when you count it, you're not worth it. Doesn't matter how many zeros you put in front of it. If you count, I'm going to do a good thing and I write it as the good thing, you haven't done a good thing. You just done something to get something. You haven't added to somebody else's or elevation of the soul or to be able to see. You do your job without counting, but you hope the result is there to create a position and dimension, a new dimension. I hear this is very traditional. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm doing a walk for, what do you call it, Fatima, and they go the whole length of Spain from one side to another. What for? Or they go to mountains of Kathmandu and other places to walk. What for? What good do you do? Or is it for you to think, when you count it, you don't have it, you already lost it. And this is something which you do not need to measure. What son am I going to be? Your job is to serve. Then the light will show itself.
Okay, I changed my direction. So another question you said about, I hope
you understand before you change. Have you understood,
I
before you?
Yeah. I understood. So it's another looking at the things you taught me, you taught us. Another aspect of things, which is, I got it. If it doesn't take, yeah. And it just, we have very little point of view regarding things comparing to you, We just look
I know a
things
little, and I share that little.
thousands of years, okay. And you said something about, I read something in very rapidly, I think about judgment you had written. No judgment, right? I read it in Brazilian, and there was a paper, I thought it was a judgment, non-judgment, not to judge.
You don't judge, you do your best, and then you see, because once you judge is something. When we judge, we have to make a decision. When you make a decision, that's what you'll react to. And that reaction brings elevation of the soul, or taking something from somewhere, or doing something with it. I don't judge. Even in the recent past, I don't judge. I put things in the order. And very interesting, we've seen even in the past 2 or 3 weeks, everybody was accused of what you call lying, and everybody would lie. And when it came to the time, the truth broke the lie. And I didn't need to judge. I just put a fact to be, and didn't try to taint it or change it, that because I could change a position of judgment. Everybody was accused of lying to change a judgment. And when it came to the judge, to the day of judgment, the truth was more powerful than the lies which was created to create lies. Because he spoke its truth. And there was nothing anybody can say about the truth. So I didn't need to judge. I put what was the fact, and the judgment comes by itself. And the person had to judge himself, nobody else. So don't make a judgment. I make a lot of decisions, like all of us. We do a decision. You might call it a judgment. We make a decision according to what is in our hand. And we decide what to do. Do you call it a judgment, or do you call it a condition of the position and decision making? We can judge about our own behavior. We can judge about our own conduct. And then judge why we did it. What was the outcome? And was it to serve the good or better? Or was it to serve me? Or was it for me to be able to elevate the others? We can judge about ourselves and nobody else. And this process of what you call judgment happens in the field of the plasma. I want to be here. Does anybody accept me? And when you accept, where is my position? Because I'm here to give to everyone.
Yeah, sometimes the intention is to serve, but it ends up it ends up with
The wrong way.
the wrong way.
Yeah, but you don't know. The thing is, if the intention is to serve and you turn up the wrong way, sit back and see where it comes out. If the decision was to serve for the better, you will see it coming up the way you planned it, or was the best for everyone. Short term might look, long term might be very different.
Fantastic, exactly.
Do you understand? We are humans. We always look at the immediate that confronts our work. The farmer seeds the soul of a grain into the land. He never knows if he'll be alive to see the to sow the seed. But he does it out of the willingness to be able to live, to serve his soul by living and the others. We have to be that farmer. When the farmer sows a seed in spring, he doesn't know he's going to be alive in autumn to collect it, but he still does, because it'll benefit his family and the others with that seed. And this is how the man's life should be. You're that farmer. Never expect, just be there, that in the future, it might brings me benefit, but in general, in principle, it's for the other souls to live off it, because I don't eat all of it. I said, even though it means bringing income, but elevating the others. And we are the farmers of the soul to serve. And that's all the human race should be, as is for the others in the universe.
Yeah, there's
Thank you very much.
some people, just another thing, cultural thing. Some people, they say in the Quran says you encourage people to do good things and tell them it's bad when they're doing things, and that causes people to interfere to what others.
Believe that part out, because that part of Quran had a meaning totally different. It's interpreted the wrong way.
I think it's like that because that causes problem of interfering.
Thank you very much, Hannah.
Thank you very much.
you.
Sir. Good luck
Thank you
and
very
good
much.
health and good mirrors.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Or shall we call it a day?
I think we're wearing you down here, Mr. Kesh, finally, perhaps.
Oh, I've been here thousands of years. It's nothing. We got a lot to go. Yet.
Yes, indeed.
Any other question?
Well, there are a couple of remaining questions, I suppose, here. Maybe we can get one or two in. There's one from Jared. Let me just get back here. Oh, yes, Jared asks, he likes to know how to treat like and dislike and love and hate equally without discrimination. And I think you're actually answering it. I think you answered this question with what you were just talking about. He liked to, I think he said it again here. Let me rephrase it. How to treat like and dislike and love and hate equally without discrimination.
I think we gave that answer just now in a different context.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, what else?
Okay, we have a question here from Antonio in the Q&A. Mr. Kesh, is the essence of the body of the man in reversed absorbed by the plants and animals as the orange is absorbed in the cup? And is this the meaning that everything is connected because the fields are interacting all the time within all life?
Yes, in a way, yes. Of course. The blanket, the pillow, the cat, the dog, the fish, the grass takes what we don't want, because it's very simple. We call it aura. Aura has to be a field which interacts with somebody, goes somewhere. So, of course, we have classified it, but we don't connect it. Now we know what it is. We receive the same. We receive from, what do you call it, the emotion, the feeling, the environment, the trees and the plants and the dog.
So Dan had a question that I don't think it was related to Antonio, but it is in a way. It says simply, if everything is put in front of us, why don't we see and understand?
Because we are ignorant. we ignore what we don't like. I call it ignorance, is part of it.
Yes.
In the English
exactly.
language, yeah. We ignore what doesn't suit us. And we see what we want to see. and that's all. We don't want to accept certain things, and we want to accept what suits us. And we are all under the same banner. Being a human, being an animal, being a prophet, being a creator, whatever we create, what we do is to the same condition. We are not exception. Once we understand we are not exception, then we move into the other level of understanding. As said before, they say, "Oh, Mr. Keshe, why do you break a leg or whatever? You can do this. What have you done that?" Just we have in a dimension of physicality part of the same. There is no exception. We go through the same. We learn the same, and from it, we learn what needs to be done.
Okay, well, let's take that idea and just, I'm trying to extend things a little bit here, Mr. Keshe, for Dan's other question here. When the peace treaty is it signed individually or through a soul? Is it valid for a whole nation?
Yep.
What happens when you don't keep that peace treaty?
You see what happened to Trump. Exactly. He created even no peace in his own nation, and it is not there. The peace treaty has to be with the soul of the man and totality, not with individuality and the purpose. The present peace talks doesn't matter about Ukraine, about the 5+1, about other points and positions. Is very simple. Has and will affect the whole of the nation and many others. We were driving yesterday in Vienna, and we saw a dirty, dusted car, Ukrainian number plate. And deep inside me, I hope that this will be short-term suffering, and this car goes back, because it was obvious it's driven all the way, non-stop, to be somewhere, to escape from what is happening. In the border of Austria, Romania, and all this, we see this emotion of people worried about this, what is happening. And is to understand it. I know the feeling because I've been through it. I know what it means to have everything and next day not to have. When we went to the Iranian Revolution, I was a student in university. And I know if we don't open the door back open, these people will be suffering and changes for a lifetime. Because I've been there. It's not that you hear 1 million, 2 million displaced. Some of these people will have no home to go back to because it's destroyed. Or some of these people will never go back because they don't feel that security. And then learning a new language, learning a new way to live, and all the things at the moment is a hot cake. A lot of people talk. 6 months down the line, nobody remembers the Ukrainian. They become another bunch of refugees. And a life process of pain, change. And that's why we come, we experience it, and then we understand it, how it has to be done. There shall be no more refugees because the man looks after each other beautifully from the new technology from now. I know it because I went through it. Why do we need to go through it? Because then you understand the emotion of the man, what is done, needs to be done to change that emotion. As I said, the same. In 1979, the summer of 1979, Iranians, if somebody had an Iranian friend, that was gold. You know, everybody wanted to be your friend. In what you call March, April of the same 1980, the following time, even at the beginning of January was the same. And then after the revolution, we all became terrorists and the rest. And we went through that cycle of revolution, and victimization and everything else. And it changes the life. And it is part of it. We have to experience it to understand what it means, what's going to happen to you, not when you become all as a refugees in a space, as your homeland called Earth is not there to support you anymore. So you need to go through the emotion to understand it and to be able to translate it, and there is no exception. Shall we call it a day?
Yes, you've said that several times. I'm just trying to squeeze in one last question, maybe give a quick answer from Paulo, because he asked this a couple of weeks now, and I'd just like to say it. So, Mr. Keshe, is our soul more like a particle or a wave?
Soul is a magnetic field. You decide when it'll behave like a particle and when it'll be a wave.
And he says, does the wave generate the particle, or does the particle generate the wave?
Did the egg come or the chicken?
I knew you were going to say that.
As
Thank you.
simple as that. The rays of the sun come emanated from the soul of the Creator. Then if you ask if the particle came or ray first, you have to ask the existence and confirmation of the Creator. Is he an entity or is he unconditional field? And I think most of us know the answer. Thank you very much indeed for today. We'll come back next week and maybe we'll celebrate more good news from every angle. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you for
foundation in the background.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and thank you for persevering for a few extra questions there for people.
I persevered for thousands of years.
You have the ultimate patience. I don't know how you do it sometimes.
It happens.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
Okay, bye for now. Okay.